Howdy howdy, this is Mr. Potter. What we're going to do in today's video is we're going to talk about how to interact with a GUI with text using text fields. So we're going to go ahead and create a new class. So we're going to call this text adder. And we're going to go ahead and import some stuff. So we're going to import the usual suspects, javax.swing.jframe, import javax.swing.jlabel, and import javax.swing.jbutton. But I'm also going to import javax.swing.jTextField. Now, if you notice that all of these start with the letter J, it's because they all are subclasses of what we call a J component. And so all of these things inherit things from the J component class, so text field. And I'm going to import for our Java AWT class the container, and import java.awt.grid layout. So for today's assignment, we're going to use the grid layout for it. And then because we are going to be interacting with our form, we're going to import java.awt.event.actionlistener and import java.awt.event.actionEvent. Now I know that I could import javax.swing.star and java.awt.star and java.awt.event.star, but it is a better idea to only import the classes that you desperately need for your program, because it's actually going to save memory in the long haul. And if you ever decide to create, let's say you want to create an app for Android which uses Java, you're going to need to kind of keep it as memory diminutive as possible, and only importing what you need is probably one of the biggest keys to that. So as we did before, I'm just going to say public class, and I'm going to call this text adder extends Jframe, and I'm going to implement Actionlistener. So implements Actionlistener, and we're going to have private JLabel. I'm actually going to have two labels. I'm going to have one label that says plus, so I'm going to say label plus, and one that's called label sum. And I'll explain what these are when we get to the constructor. I'm going to have one button, so private JButton button equals. And then I'm going to have two text fields. So I'm going to have private JTextField text1 and text2. So the idea here is that I want to have a situation where I'm going to have a text field, a label with a plus on it, another text field, an equal sign on a button, and then over here I'll have some type of label. And our action listener method will actually take what we've typed in these two text fields, add them together, and put the result in the label. So that's what we're headed for here. So I'm using a label for plus because the plus sign isn't going to change. And I'm using a label for the result that we get because I don't want the user to be able to tamper with it. I'm using a button for the equals, so the equal sign will just be on a button that we will click and have the user do that to process what they type in these two text fields. So that's what we're looking at for our text editor class that we've got here. So our constructor, so public text adder. And so this is our constructor, so we need to take care of Jframe Essentials. Remember the four things that we have set size to, and I'm going to go ahead and do 500 to 100. So again, a nice long narrow one. I'm going to set title to text adder. I'm going to set default close operation to exit on close, and I'm going to set visible to true. And of course, I want this to be the last thing that I do, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of my code in between here. So I'm going to instantiate my J components. So I'm going to say label plus is going to get a new JLabel. And I want to talk about a different constructor here with JLabel. So I'm going to put a plus in here. But I also want to keep it from being left aligned. Remember that the default for a JLabel is that it's going to be left aligned within its little label. I can put as a second parameter JLabel.center using the constant from the JLabel class. And what that will do is that will center align what I'm dealing with. And I'm going to do label sum, and I'm going to say new JLabel. And I'm not going to have anything in there to begin with, but I'm going to use JLabel.write. So I just want to do this to kind of illustrate this constructor for our JLabel that deals with the alignment. Remember that our default alignment is going to left align it, but I can center align and right align as well. I'm going to create a button equals. So button equals gets new JButton, and it's going to have an equal sign on it. And I'm going to create two text fields. So my first text field, text1, is going to get a new JTextField. Now I can put something in here, like I can put a 4 in here. And that means that the text field will initially be populated with a 4 in it, and it'll process with a 4 if I try and do a process with it. And I can do text2 gets new JTextField, just with a default constructor, and that's going to give me an empty text field to deal with. So these are my objects. So our plus label is here. We've got our sum label, which is where our result's going to be. We're going to have a button equals, which is going to take the result of these two text fields, one of which will start off with a 4 in it, and the other one will be blank. And we can manipulate those. So I'm going to take care of the layout now. So I'm going to say container pane gets new, this dot get content pane, and pane dot set layout to a new grid layout. Now notice that I've got 5 components here. I've got 2 text fields, I've got 2 labels, and I've got an equals. So I want this to be one row with 5 columns. So that's how I'm determining the layout that I want here. I could use a flow layout, and a flow layout may actually look better, but I want to get in the habit of using all the different layout options that we talked about a couple of days ago. So now what I'm going to do is add stuff to my pane. So the first thing I want is my first text field. This is my first add-in, so pane.add text1. And then I want to add the plus label, so pane.add label plus. Then I want to add the text field 2, so pane.add text2 with a semicolon. Then I want to add the button, so pane.add button equals. And then pane.add label sum. So that takes care of all of the things being added to our form. Now we need to take care of this action listener part, the idea that I want it to do something whenever the button is clicked. So I need to add an action listener to the button. So button equals dot add action listener this. And so what that means is that when the button is clicked, it's going to go to our action performed, which we're going to write in just a moment. And then we've got our set visible to true. So let's get rid of some of the space. And now we need to deal with our add action listener. So public void action performed with an action event E. And I mentioned last time when we were talking about action events, but it's a good idea to put this as some type of conditional. So if e.getAction command, and I want to know if this is equal to an equal sign, which means that if it is an equal sign, then it's going to be our J button that we defined up here. But if this is true, then I want to go through the process of adding. So what's important to note is that I have 2 text fields, text1 and text2, and I need to extract the numerical data from this. So I'm going to say int num1 is going to get, and I need to get it out of text, so this is going to be integer.parseInt. for text1. And I'm going to do the same thing for num2 out of the second text field. So integer.parseInt text2. And I need to resolve that. So I'm going to say int sum gets num1 plus num2. And I want to put the result in my label sum. So it's going to be label sum.setText. And I'm going to set it to the result of sum. Now I could use a concatenation trick. I could say quote quote plus sum, and that would force it to be a string. That's one way to do it. But I can also do string.value of sum. And what that does is that automatically takes a primitive and finds a way to promote it to a string. So this is going to get the two values out of the text boxes, sum them together, and then put the resulting sum in the label that we have. So all I need to do is my public static void main. And I just need to create an instance of TextAdder. So this should do it. So real quick recap of what we've done here. This first 3 lines of our constructor is just the JFrame stuff that we've talked about before, where I get the size, set the title, set the default close operation. I want to instantiate my J components. So what we're actually doing that's different today is we're talking about the overloaded constructor for label using alignment. And we have 2 different types of alignment, so we can align center or right, and the default is left justified. And the other thing that we're talking about is the JTextField. So I've got this JTextField which currently is populated with the 4, so I can have the overloaded constructor with pre-data, if you want to think of it that way, or I can have the default constructor with no data. And then we've got our typical setup, the pane, and layout. And then we added elements to the layout. We then set up the action listener, which is really the button for us. And then we make it all visible. So that's what we're doing. That's the flow of our TextAdder. So we're going to go ahead and run this program and see what happens. So tick-tock while we wait for it to compile. Just a few errors. Let's take care of those real quick. Button equals would be helpful if I could spell. And integer dot parseInt. So oh, I can't do text1 because it's a text field. I actually have to get the text. I forgot about that. My goodness. Glad I saw that error. Yeah, the thing is text1 and text2 are JTextFields. I need to actually extract the text from it, so I need to use getText to get the text from this. So I'll make that change, and that should take care of things. What's important to know is that all of our J components have a getText and a setText method. So here's our text field. I got 4, I've got a plus, I've got some spot here. Let's go ahead and fill it with a 7. Come on. And then we're going to hit the equals button, and it does the 11. Notice that this plus sign is center aligned, so it's nice between those text fields. And notice that this label that I've set up is right aligned. So I can make this a pretty big number. Not too big. And I can use tab to go between the text fields, and I can, once the button is highlighted, I could use the space bar to evaluate it. And so I've got this number, this 231,424,123 plus 724,512,451 equals 955,936,574. As long as I'm staying under max int, then I'm fine. So everything, if the total's under 2 billion, I should be okay. I could even try and stick a negative number in here. Let's see if that works. Yeah, and it's going to parse it that correctly. So I've got this set up for addition or subtraction. And so that means that I really could set this up as some type of calculator. I could envision a calculator where I've got a text field up in the north part of a border layout. And in the center of my border layout, I've got another group of buttons. So that would be interesting if we had a way to kind of put a group of things in this. And that's actually what we're going to talk about next time. So, short video today. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.